Hey, Hustle Bro, how do you even get clients these days?
I DM people a quick question, do you want to buy my shit?
Yeah, how do you do that?
I just send them a connection request and they go, buy my shit.
And people actually respond and reply to that?
No, not really, but then I send a just following up message and I say, I hope you're well, but I actually don't hope they're well.
And then what happens?
Get this, I invite them to a casual chat that is not a sales pitch, and it's actually a sales pitch.
And do people actually buy that shit and stay and pay you over the long term?
No, but I send 1,000 messages a day and I work real hard. I got a lead scraper, I got booked appointments, I got calls, and I chase motherfuckers till I'm blue in the face. What's up, guys? It's Frankie here. In this video, we're going to talk about bringing clients to you, ending the chase. In fact, one of the things I hope to bring to our space, every day somebody comes to me thinking they have to cold DM strangers and do all this hustling and all this chasing and all this spamming people in order to get business. And what you'll find is if you talk to a lot of people who are doing 7-figure agencies, 8-figure, 9-figure, friends I do, almost rarely is this ever true. Almost rarely is it ever built on an outbound team. In fact, it's almost always been on value, relationships, and inbound. And I want to show you guys the most strategic way to bring inbound to you very, very quickly. It costs nothing. So even if you don't have a budget, and it's just giving away ideas. If you really can wrap your head around ideas equal free when implementation equals money, then you will simply share ideas that help your audience. And in doing so, people will come to you to get help on the implementation side of things, and you'll get paid on the implementation side. So if that sounds like something cool for you guys, you're going to want to stick around for this video. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name's Frankie Finn. I wrote these 2 best-selling books, Beyond the Agency Box, Passive Automated Recurring Income. I have also built 3 of my own agencies up to 100 plus clients, and I've helped thousands of people worldwide to live this more beach, less laptop stuff. And a big part of that is bringing people to you and ending the chase and having a much more strategic acquisition system. So let's get into how to do that. So as mentioned in this video, I want to help you guys to get away from chasing people in their inbox, which I think is a big grind. I don't think most people like doing it. And most clients, by the way, see it totally like this.
It's a trap.
And instead, when you do what I'm talking about in this video, people are going to find you, and this is how excited they're going to be to work with you.
Blue, you're my boy!
In fact, if you could actually measure this out of 10, the way most people are getting calls in a cold DM is if you could measure this out of 10, like most people are like 2 to 3 out of 10 on the idea of working together, even when you get a call booked. And when you do the attraction stuff, I would say on average is probably like an 8, 7, 8s, 9s, sometimes even 10s. In fact, I think about my easiest sales call of all time where a lady said to me, hey, I saw you speak last week at the National Trial Lawyers Association. To be honest with you, we don't even know what you sell, but I came here to buy it, so tell me how we work together. Right? Like, and I think any idiot could close that call because it was already like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 before we even started talking. So I want to show you guys how to do that. And there's an analogy. I'm going to use 2 analogies right here. This right here is not a house. Imagine this as a grocery store. And I want you to imagine this one over here as a shoe store. So like a grocery store has food. So I'm putting like a banana. This is like an apple. Okay. And over here, this is a shoe store. So this is my terrible like shoe drawing. Yeah, whatever. Anyways, you get the idea. Let's put 2 shoes. So it looks even worse. Anyways, that's an apple and a banana, and that's a shoe store. Okay, so I want to illustrate this attraction marketing because if you really understand it. So Frankie Finn was 13 years old, 12, 13 years old, somewhere in that range. And the way it works in Canada is you have to get like what's called a social insurance number in order to work, and they only give those to you when you're 15 years old. And I remember just out of curiosity one time, back in those days, they had newspapers. I opened it up. There was a job in there, and they said, sell chocolate bars and get paid cash, can work if you're under 15. So none of the other jobs I could actually even apply to. So that job was the only one, and I imagined myself making a whole bunch of money, and so I became a door-to-door chocolate salesperson. And this is what most people in our space are teaching. One-to-one DMing. I would knock on doors. And in essence, when you do that, you get 1 of 3 responses. You get yes sometimes, and you make a little bit of money selling chocolate. That's probably the rarest response. You get a lot of no thank you. Sometimes it's polite. Sometimes people are like, fuck you, you woke the fucking baby, which as a parent, I finally understand. And then sometimes people like just aren't home or don't want to answer the door. That's the most common response. You just never hear from that person. And if you do this enough times, you make 50, 100 bucks a day, which is what I did. And you know, I could buy video games and candy and go to the movies and shit like that. So like my life was pimping as a 12-year-old. or 13-year-old. But once a month, our local manager would go to the local grocery store. It's a chain called Zehrs. They had 4 main entrances, and we had 8 kids in this tiny little Geo Metro packed full of chocolate. And he would go to the manager and say, hey, we're selling chocolate bars for the blind. We got a couple of kids. They're just trying to fundraise. Is it cool if we stand outside the front doors and sell some chocolate bars? And the guy was like, yeah, go for it. And this was like 20 years ago, so people didn't have debit cards. And so like literally everybody had cash. And I remember it didn't matter how good or bad a kid was at selling. Every kid would be sold out of chocolate in 10 or 15 minutes. And when I would do the one-to-one door knocking, it would take me 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. And when we would stand in front of the grocery store where the buyers, like literally an audience of buyers got in their car, drove to the grocery store, we would be sold out of chocolate. I was always like, man, why can't we just go to the grocery store every day? There's 100 grocery stores in this town. Why do we got to knock on doors? And knocking on doors, again, 5, 6, 7, 8 hour grind, standing in front of the grocery store. So I would experience this, like one such grocery store that I'm going to show you guys is when I would speak on stage, it was very normal. You walk off stage, 1,000 people in the audience, 5 of them want to work with you, 10 of them want to work with you, 15 of them sometimes. So you can sometimes pick up like $30,000 a month in recurring revenue in an hour, right? And that's because we're standing in front of a buying audience. So what I wanted to show you guys in this as well, I'm going to use one more analogy just to make this clear, and then we'll get into the strategies and the tactics of how to actually do this. But Dan Kennedy calls this like, if you imagine your marketing service like shoes, he says, your first instinct will be to sell for need. You're going to look for somebody who's barefoot and does not own shoes, and you're going to try and sell it to them. So you're going to try and sell a website to somebody who's never bought a website. You're going to try and sell marketing and advertising to somebody who doesn't advertise. He says, but what you actually want to do is sell to someone who has 200 pairs of shoes in the closet. And it's not logical because you think, well, they already have enough shoes. They don't need me. But the opposite is true. There's always a reason why they need another pair of shoes, right? They're maybe like they don't have a Spanish-speaking version of their website, or maybe they're not yet on TikTok, or yeah, they're running Facebook ads, but they could be running 3 better strategies, right? So you actually want to focus on this. And so what I learned is the best place to sell shoes, if you can really wrap your head around it, the people who buy shoes from you buy shoes from everybody. And by the way, only about 20% of your market is shoe stores. So if you can wrap your head around the people who buy from you buy from everybody else, the best thing you can do is collaborate with the people who already sell everything else to them. So let's get into actually how to do that. Okay, so I want to show you the 7 different types of what I would call shoe stores, grocery stores, audience owners. I sometimes use deal sources. They're different terms I use, but they're really all the same thing. So the first one of these, by the way, is somebody in your space already has expertise. So if you're in a niche, there's already somebody selling courses. There's already somebody who's got a mastermind. There's already somebody who's got a coaching program. There's already somebody who's a high-paid consultant in that industry. Then there's also what I would call the content curators, right? Somebody has a podcast. Somebody has a YouTube channel. Somebody publishes regularly on LinkedIn and has a whole following on there, right? Then I would say, I'm going to just write short form for this because we got to keep it not PG here because that's my style. Somebody runs an association, especially for those of you guys who work in offline niches. This may not be true if you got like online coaches or agencies, but if you work in the real world, somebody has an association. Association, there we go, right? And then also, your people are already self-organized into communities, right? Somebody has a Facebook community. Somebody has a LinkedIn community. Sometimes they meet up in real life. Imagine that, this whole real life thing. Also as well, somebody creates tools, and somebody creates software, and somebody creates supplies, right? So there's somebody right now who, like, if you work in the construction industry, somebody sells them the nail gun, the tool, blah, blah, blah. If you work in like a more electronic space, somebody creates the CRM, the software, the tool, etc., right? Like these people already exist in the space. And also, somebody supplies those people with raw materials and things like that. Like I think in the dental niche, I don't know who it is, but somebody makes dental chairs. Somebody makes the shit you put in your mouth. Somebody makes the pick. And they literally know already every dentist that you would ever want to know. And they also know who spends the most money on it, right? So then as well, I would also say somebody has events. Somebody's got a conference. Somebody's got a meetup. Somebody's got a retreat. Already, again, these things are already happening in your space. And then the last one is people are selling services. And of course, this means marketing services, SEO, pay-per-click web design, but it also means other services. Somebody's doing their bookkeeping, somebody's doing their financials, somebody's lending them money, somebody's doing their real estate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so what I found is if you can imagine this is your sailboat, right? What most people do metaphorically is they try and create, through effort, knocking on doors, they try and create flow in their business, when in reality, what I suggest to you guys is there's already flow already happening in your industry. If you don't believe me, just go to one big industry conference. In fact, you don't even have to go. Just check out their website and see how many people go and what they buy and what's being sold there and who's exhibiting and what events and who's speaking. And I promise you, a lot of money is being moved at this. And I noticed this because years and years and years of doing this, I would just see the same people at events over and over and over and over. So my question to you guys is, how do we collaborate with these people in a way where we're actually adding value to their world so that they want to then share our stuff with their audience? And I'll give you the example, or what I do. And there's 3 levels to this, okay? So the first one is what I would call a coffee date. The second is what I would call a first date. And the last level is marriage. And what screws people up in general in business is like everybody's trying to go one play 95 yards and they can't think strategically. And thinking strategically is like can think 2-3 moves in advance. So if you think about this, like the relationship with these people, it starts on the 1 yard line. We need to go 99 yards up the field. We don't do that on a single play. We don't need a Hail Mary. We just have to move the ball forward. And the way we do that is with a coffee date. And so what I would suggest to you guys is that the highest paid people in every industry produce massive amounts of content. They have blogs, they have YouTube channels, they have podcasts, they have live events, and they produce information and valuable stuff for their audience. But this creates a problem that you can solve, by the way, which is they run out of shit to say to people. And also, on the scale they're doing it, it requires collaboration with other people, and there's endless reasons other people bail on them. I've seen it where like, hey, we need to publish a newsletter, and the newsletter guy we can't reach him. And we got to publish something in 3 hours. So if I show up and say, hey, I got something valuable to add to your newsletter, and this is the secret formula, if you can really wrap your head around this, is information equals free, and implementation, this just says imp, equals money. And so what I mean by that is, if you do SEO for lawyers, tell lawyers how they can rank their website on their own, without you, and they will pay you for the implementation. If you do pay-per-click for e-commerce, show them what kind of pay-per-click ads work, and when they go to implement that, they will pay you to implement it. So what you're looking for in this, and this screws people up, is look for what they are already doing and figure out how you can serve their audience with information, and this is how you get your foot in the door. And then what happens is, then you can later propose the idea of like, let me do my service for 1 or 2 of your people. And then, hey, if that goes well, you can say, I put together a special deal. Let us do this for everybody. And again, you don't score a touchdown on a single play. The coffee date just moves the ball 5, 10, 15, 20 yards forward. But once you've created something valuable, whether it's a podcast episode or you speak on their stage or you give something valuable to their audience, you do a free webinar or training, again, it depends on what they're already doing. This is one of the things that trips people up with this strategy is you have to go with the flow a little bit. So if I look up the industry association and they got a regular podcast, I'm going to say, hey, I got an idea for your podcast episode. If they do a regular once a month webinar, I'm going to say, hey, I got an idea for a webinar. If they have a newsletter they publish, I'm going to say, I got an idea for a newsletter. If they have a magazine, I'm going to say, I got an idea for a magazine. It's very, very important that I'm doing their work for them. I'm taking something off of their plate because I know that behind the scenes, they're struggling with what do we say next month? We're missing this, we're missing that. And I come in and say, I'll just do it for you. So if you guys can really wrap your head around this, what will happen is, by the way, and this, with the door-to-door stuff, it's very instantaneous, even though it's like exponentially harder. With inbound, it takes 2 to 6 weeks, and I'll tell you why. Okay, so say like I go to the industry association, I create a podcast. Well, it might take us a week to schedule the podcast. Then it takes me an hour to record it. Then it takes them another week or 2 to edit it. And then they got to share it with their list and promote it and blah, blah, blah. But you can almost tell the exact day 3 to 4 weeks later when it gets published because all of a sudden people go, hey, I saw you on the Industry Association podcast. How can we work together? People will reach out to you and find you. And by the way, You don't even have to go looking for them. They'll cold DM you, they'll message you. And I'll tell you, it changes the dynamic of the relationship when they have sought you out versus you chasing them. And all you did was give away info about the thing you do for free. So I wanted to show you guys this because I find this just a much happier way to do business. In fact, this is how happy I get personally doing it.
Bring it back now.
Imagine being that happy because you're not the father, right? Some people are. Anyways, so I want to show this to you guys because even though this takes 2 to 6 weeks, this is so much faster than this. Because here you're spending 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day knocking on doors. Most of those people have no idea who you are. They're not all that interested in working together. And I compared it to, by the way, in my second book. Let's see if we can find this real quick because I want to show you guys this. So what we're really doing here is pursuing distribution. Like what is the magic of going to the grocery store first? I don't know if you guys can see this image here, but I created an image of 2 farmers, okay? So over here we have Andy and over here we have Bob, so A and B kind of thing. Andy pursues sales directly, which is what we're told to do in this industry. So he stands by the side of the road, he talks to people, he tries to sell eggs, he creates offers, organic farm fresh eggs, and hopefully he sells some eggs. Now over here we have Bob, and Bob believes, as I do, and hopefully you will by the time this video is done, that distribution is more valuable than money. And so what ends up happening is he pursues stores. He says, if I can get a store to sell my eggs every time I make a sale, they're going to sell like a bajillion of my eggs for me. And so he focuses on not on one-to-one sales, but one-to-many. How can I get my stuff sold in stores? And the question I propose to you is, fast forward a year, who's going to sell more eggs? Andy by the side of the road chasing people one-to-one, or Bob chasing stores? And we all know Bob's going to crush it, right? Like imagine Bob gets his eggs sold in Walmart. So what we're really doing here is pursuing distribution. And I'll tell you what this has done for us personally. I remember, the number one question I got asked over the last year, you're me, you're starting over. How would you build this business up? I created the 90-day challenge where I said, I'm going to build an agency to $10K a month. I'm going to do it in 90 days. I'm going to use entirely free methods, and I'm going to just document the process. It took us, by the way, 26, 27, 28 days, something like that, and I hit 15.6K a month recurring. So like, even if you already have revenue, you can add to this. But the biggest thing is it creates revenue from essentially nothing. And the magic of this is you're pursuing distribution first. You're going where the audience is. So for what it did for us, I got invited to speak on an industry stage in Las Vegas. That was pretty cool. I remember we got featured on one of the magazines on the front cover. That went out to 30,000 contractors. If 30,000 contractors see your front cover article, like you're probably going to sell 5 or 10 fucking services on the back end of that. I remember we published a YouTube video and it went kind of like semi-viral where we had 5,000 views in the first 24 hours. I remember actually in the same industry publishing my own YouTube videos from nothing and they got 2 views, 2. And probably one of them was me, right? So because they already had an audience of people that were interested, when we published, they got immediately 5,000 people watched it. And there were all kinds of little things like that where we had all kinds of inbound people who had never heard of us 2 to 3 weeks earlier saying, I saw you in this, heard about you in that, how can we work together? And it continues to this day, by the way. People still reach out to us from the stuff we publish. And for those of you guys, by the way, who are interested in getting some help on the implementation side of this, as I mentioned, info equals free, implementation is money. We have a whole bunch of tools that I've built inside of our Wolfpack Mastermind. So one of the things is, if you tell me your niche, I can click a button and tell you who all these people are. In fact, I have ChatGPT do the research and it does it like laser fast. And then I can also have another GPT pass this over and it'll write the messages to those people. You really only need to send like 1 to 5 of these a week. It's not like door knocking where you're just trying to build relationships with a small handful of people. Usually I find about 100 to 200 people total can control most of the commerce in your industry. So we're talking like, 200 people in a year. If you send 1 to 5 messages a week, you're going to be better off than somebody who knocks on doors. One grocery store will get you farther than knocking on 1,000 doors. But we have tools to write the messages. And then when you go to create content for the podcast or magazine, whatever, we have tools that can create that. So we can go from like, having never heard of us before to finding these people, messaging them, and then creating stuff that's valuable to their audience in like under 2 minutes. So if you guys are interested in that, you probably want to listen to this. All right, so I wanted to show you guys this video because this is a big alternative. I'm not against cold DMing people. In fact, we do, kind of cold DM these people. What's different is when you're cold DMing strangers, what most people are trying to do is, would you like to buy my shit? What we're cold DMing and saying is, I'd love to give something valuable to your audience and help you with the thing you're already doing and serve your people and be valuable to them. Is that something you'd be open to? And what we find is, when you knock on doors and go, do you want to buy my shit? Like, you're lucky if 3 out of 1,000 people will respond to you and buy your shit. When you do this, it's not unusual for us to send 10 messages and have 7 or 8 of them go, yeah, I need exactly what you got, because we're actually giving value and helping them with the work they're already trying to do. So if that sounds like more your style, I want you to hit that old subscribe button wherever it is, and make sure to pay attention to these videos for the golden dad guns. That's all I got for you guys in this video. Much love. May the force be with you.
Hey guys, if you like this video, you may also like my best-selling book here, Beyond the Agency Box. It is all about scaling a digital marketing agency while eliminating meetings and phone calls. We actually sell our stuff phoneless. We don't have any client meetings, and we also hire our team entirely without meeting phone calls, which allows us to, actually kind of live a life. I've laid out the entire blueprint and everything you need to know, getting clients, onboarding, setting expectations, scaling, building a team, you name it. It has been a bestseller on Amazon now for over 5 straight years, but now you can get it even cheaper than you can get it on Amazon. So I can't tell you the exact price because it may change when this video is released, but there should be a link to it below, either in the description of the video or as well as a pinned comment. So if you're interested in that, check out that video and you can get a copy for super cheap.